What's going on, guys? Sorry I'm late. It's only 6 minutes. It's not bad. Sneed Mobile Tech in the house. What do we got here? Official starting time is 10:06. Glad you guys could be here tonight. I got a lot of catching up to do in the chat. Let me see what's going on. All right, let's start from the tippy top at the very beginning. Martin's in the house. Glad you could be here. Gary's in the house. Thank you for being here. Flyboy, thank you for stopping by. Billy is here. Dark Vader, salute, my friend. Pete, glad you could be here. Thank you for joining us. John M is here, just starting. What else? Anybody else in here? All right, that looks like that's everybody that's so far has said hello. All right, let me get an audio check. Let me get a video check. Somebody can get me audio and video. Hopefully I took care of these audio issues I was having on Sunday. And just so you guys know, I'm a little distracted tonight. You got the Warriors versus the Raptors, and the Raptors are by 12. Kind of watching that a little bit. Did I miss anybody in the chat? I hope I didn't. Let's see if I missed anybody. Jarrett's here. Omar is here. Steve is here. Did I say Jarrett? Oh, well, we'll say Jarrett again. Glad you guys could be here. Yeah, go Raptors, for sure. Sick of the Warriors always winning everything. All right, Billy says I'm good. All right, hopefully the audio and the video is good. Martin says we are good on both. DC is here. Anthman 2124 is here. All right, we are good to start. Today's date is Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. Welcome to the Sneed Mobile Tech Podcast. We have a special today, kind of randomly on a Wednesday. Usually I do these, it's a Friday or a Sunday, or if there's been like big news or something, but I'm off for work. Today is my last day. I don't have to report back till August. So it's a good day to go ahead and do a podcast and live stream it. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here. I also want to thank those that are watching this on replay. Thank you for tuning in to watch. Mo is here. Glad you could be here, brother. Joseph is here. Thank you for being here and spending some of your valuable time with us. Yeah, I'm distracted by this game, but it's okay. We're going to do this right. Let's see. Anything on the topics that we're covering today? It's all going to be 5G. We're going to talk about kind of like the current state of 5G, what the networks are doing. We'll talk about Sprint. Believe it or not, things actually are not bad for Sprint right now, at least from the 5G side. The merger has been quiet this week, and I'll explain why that's a good thing. T-Mobile did a little bit with 5G in Manhattan and the New York City area. We'll talk about that. The Spectrum auctions for Spectrum Auction 102 wrapped up on, I think, Tuesday of last week, and I did a summary video on it, and then we've got some new reports coming out about which carriers got how much spectrum and spent how much money. So I think we'll take a look at some of that stuff, and then we'll just kind of open it up at the end. I don't plan on being on here too long. We'll see how far it goes, but I want to do at least 30 minutes with you guys on this podcast. So, yeah, Gary, no updates on the merger, but I'll definitely keep you posted, man. Stay tuned to the channel. Afine is in the house, if I said that right, or Afine. I want 5G to be free on Sprint. Not happening. They're charging. They got to be profitable. They got a lot of money to make. The Dragon Friday is here. Glad you could be here. First time visiting. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy the show. You know, John, I wish I could afford you a merger update. There's just nothing out there right now. All I can give you is speculation and my best guesses on what's going on, which I'll get to. Pete says Sprint isn't going to be free. Yeah, they're going to be charging. As of right now, it looks like they're charging just a little bit more. I think about 10 or 15% more than their regular LTE plans. So they're charging a premium. Dragon Friday says, I heard the merger will come next month. I know it from the employee from Sprint told me. Employees don't do anything. They don't know anything. That's the last person you want to listen to. If an employee tells you anything other than I don't know, they're lying. I mean, the only people that know are going to be, T-Mobile executives and, the DOJ. There's nobody else that has any inkling as to what's going on in those meeting rooms. Let's see. Blindroid Tech, glad you could be here. Thanks for stopping by. John M says, I don't think 5G is necessary at the moment. I disagree. It's very necessary. I mean, look at all the congestion we're seeing in so many markets. I mean, at least take the markets that have the congestion and start rolling out 5G there. At least. Anthman says, what type of megahertz was the FCC auction for? I believe the one that just wrapped up was the 24 gigahertz auction. So this is millimeter wave. This is some really, really fast, high capacity, low range spectrum. So not good for coverage across the U.S., but excellent for coverage in those city centers and densely urban settings where they need the connectivity and support, things like concert series, sporting events. Anytime you're going to have a bunch of people packed in a city center, 10,000, 20,000 people, that's kind of what we're talking here. No to low band on that. No, Afine, I don't have a PS4. I have an Xbox. Low band, no, it's going to be high band. It's all millimeter wave. Gary says T-Mobile is working on getting 600 megahertz in my area. How far does 600 travel? It travels really well, probably the best of any frequency amongst any carriers. I know Verizon's got a lot of 800 or AT&T and Verizon have a lot of 700, 800, 850. That stuff travels pretty good, but 600 is where it's at. That's how you blanket the U.S. with LTE, and that's why they picked that spectrum to do so. Yeah, Joe is in the house. Joe says T-Mobile slated during the auction. Yeah, they did really good, but they had to. They had to do it. It was planned. Verizon already got a big jump on spectrum holdings, the 28 megahertz variety earlier in the year. So, yeah. Pete says they got like 200 more licenses. Yeah, they got a ton, and they're going to position them all over the U.S. And man, 28 megahertz represents the frequency of waves that those spectrum assets will travel through. So it's really high frequency millimeter wave spectrum that affords great speed and throughput, but it lacks range. Therefore, they're going to have to pack these cities with this 5G with a lot of 5G nodes and, very a high number of antennas in order to make the connectivity worthwhile. But that's the only way you can do it with millimeter wave. You've got to densely pack a lot of nodes. So going to see a lot of those microcells and 5G nodes all over cities. William is in the house, says Sprint and US Cellular. Yeah, they bought some spectrum too. Sprint went in kind of weird. They ended up buying under like a different company name, but it was spotted out. US Cellular bought some too. I think they spent like 200 million or something like that. Small time, but at least it looks like they're going to get some 5G in certain places. I'm guessing places where they don't want to deal with congestion. JK Video Stream says, can you use an iPhone XS on 5G? I know it's not a 5G phone, but might possibly enjoy faster speed. If the XS has band 71, it'll get you some faster speeds on T-Mobile. But I think that's the only carrier that's going to have that ability because they're the only ones doing it over a previously used LTE band. DC Redskin says, I really think Sprint is going to win the 5G race. We'll talk about it today. Kevin's in the house, says, what is AT&T and Verizon going to do if the merger doesn't go through? If the merger does go through, nothing changes for them. If anything, they're just, I don't know, maybe they're going to expedite their build outs of their national 5G because they're going to feel more pressure from T-Mobile. Pete says, continue ignoring them. Yeah, I mean, it shows you how powerful. I mean, look at the market share. Verizon has 150 million subs. AT&T's right there. I mean, that's 300 million customers. T-Mobile's at 80 million. Sprint's at 55 million. So, I mean, look at that market share. It's astounding. Sorry about that, John M. I guess I missed it. Dragon Friday says, where can I get reliable info about T-Mobile, like getting better Wi-Fi, etc.? I don't know what Wi-Fi has to do with T-Mobile. Carmen Harrison's in the house, says AT&T T-Mobile buy 1.8 billion worth of 24 gigahertz spectrum across the U.S. via Ars Technica. Yeah, those numbers are the same ones that I came across. Yeah, they went big in this auction. Verizon went big with they went the biggest out of all the four carriers in the first auction, and then they didn't have to buy too much of this go around. So, but overall, I mean, they spent similarly on the millimeter wave spectrum. Kaimon Tang says the new T-Mobile will actually win the 5G race. Yeah, they could. I mean, they've got the right spectrum. The 2.5 gigahertz spectrum is going to have the best range. It's going to propagate the best. It'll get through a lot of the barrier issues that the millimeter wave has. So nationally, yeah, I mean, if we want to talk nationally coverage, yeah, sure. The fine says, give me money, Sneed. No. John M says T-Mobile doesn't fall back on HSPA everywhere when not having. They go into, I don't even know. Use some commas or something, man. Ant-Man says I'm all about 5G, but I'm lucky I get decent 4G from Verizon. Sometimes still get 3G or Edge. I can't remember the last time I got 3G on my Verizon service. Troy, glad you could be here. All right, let's get this thing going. We got 58 people in the live chat. Let's start talking content. All right, so today's podcast is titled Who is Winning 5G? And then the second part is Who will win 5G? So we're going to kind of take a look at both of those angles. So first, I want to talk about who is winning 5G. All right, so I want to open this up by saying a couple of things. When I say who is winning, I mean who has the most substantial 5G network as of right now. All right, so we take Verizon, and Verizon is the biggest carrier in the U.S. I mean, you could argue them or AT&T. I don't know. It depends on the numbers you find, whatever. Verizon's the biggest carrier, and they also appear to have the most LTE nationwide. So clear to say that Verizon either is winning or has won LTE. If you're asking me who I want to win 5G, it's not Verizon. I don't want them to win 5G, but I just, based on track record, I feel like they stand a good chance to continue to thrive because they just have so much operational revenue and their build-outs are so reliable. They clearly know what they're doing when it comes to network technology and implementation of, macro sites and small cells. They know what they're doing. They chose very carefully in what they're doing with their spectrum and their choices of rolling it out. Their rollout of band 66 was very good. Their use of low frequency bands in rural areas has been very good. Most of their coverage is native. They don't roam that much. I mean, they're just really good about their network. Now, their network is heavily congested in some areas, but what carrier isn't? So currently, as it stands right now, Verizon's 5G is only in 2 cities. It's on in Minneapolis. It's on in Chicago. And because it's millimeter wave, it's very limited in how far it can connect. And it's very limited in how much it actually does connect. So people have had problems. The initial launch with the Moto Z3 was horrible with the Moto mod for 5G. That was a terrible showing to start. Clearly, it was the growing pains of the early 5G networks, and it just wasn't very good. Just horrible in Chicago. I'm guessing Minneapolis was more of the same. When it did connect, it was really, really fast. So the millimeter wave clearly has its advantages. So you've got the limitation of Verizon only being in 2 cities and the fact that it was only one device for about a month or so. Then Verizon got the exclusivity for the Samsung Galaxy S10 5G. And that works much better. Connectivity is more reliable. The speeds are really good. But again, it's the nature of the beast. The millimeter wave just does not propagate. It does not penetrate through walls and barriers. I mean, it's pretty crazy how bad it is when it comes to stuff like that. So if you're in direct line of sight and you're in Chicago and you're near these nodes, it's really fast. You think about the application, like, but what does that really get you? Like, how often are you going to be in a certain place to get connected to that 5G? So it's clearly flawed, not the best case scenario. In terms of what AT&T is doing, what AT&T is doing doesn't matter because there's a couple of problems with what AT&T's 5G has. The first problem with AT&T 5G is the fact that they don't have any handheld devices to run on it. The only way you're getting connected to AT&T 5G is if you have that Netgear Nighthawk mobile hotspot thing, this hotspot puck. And then if you are going to have that available to you, it's on the enterprise level. So it's designed for businesses. It's not even designed for residential or just regular commercial usage. So it's non-existent. And not only do they not have devices, not only do they not make it available to the general public, but it's also limited in how many cities it's available. So AT&T is not doing anything great, although the network itself is going to be pretty good once they launch the sub 6 gigahertz spectrum, which should be very similar to what we're going to see from Sprint's 2.5 gigahertz. And I'll get to that in a second. So AT&T has a lot of potential to have a good 5G network. The problem is right now, nothing is readily available to customers. So that kind of covers the Verizon and AT&T thing on their side. I'm going to just pop in here. Pete says Verizon was first in the game. That's true. They were first. I mean, it's interesting. Verizon wanted to be first, so they won. All right, you got first place. You were the first to any form of 5G, but it was awful. I mean, the Moto Z3 thing was a complete failure. So you were the first to something bad. Steve Sanchez, I'll get to the Sprint thing in a second. Afeen says, does the internet run faster with 5G? Absolutely. That's the whole idea, is to get connected to a faster data connection and drop the latency, increase the throughput so that, users don't get slowed down when, a tower is congested. Afeen says, I need faster internet. Yeah, don't we all? Yeah, Gary, I have a crappy cell phone company. Christian says T-Mobile will lead the way. Well, let's actually talk about T-Mobile. All right, so what T-Mobile is doing with their 5G right now is they're actually not in a rush to do anything with 5G as it pertains to the nationwide, 600 megahertz rollout of their nationwide 5G. The reason they're not in a rush is because the chipsets aren't ready. The smartphones that are going to utilize 600 megahertz spectrum have not been distributed yet. They may or may not be in production right now. We're expecting them in Q3. It's possible we may not even see them until Q4 of 2019. We don't have any concrete evidence as to when we're going to get it. We don't have a release date. We don't even know what phone it's going to be. There's speculation it's going to be the OnePlus 7T 5G. There's speculation that the Samsung Galaxy S10 5G will be available through T-Mobile. But as of right now, you can actually take a Verizon unlocked S10 5G and connect it to T-Mobile's millimeter wave spectrum that's being tested in New York. We saw that. Big shout out to Gatekeeper 7 over on the Discord chat. He kind of sent me over that link and some of those links to the videos of them speed testing. And and it was fast. It was coming in at like 400 or 500 megabits per second. I know some people in the comment section were saying that that's not fast. Well, I mean, it's faster than what any LTE is doing right now. I mean, the fastest LTE I'm seeing is like 200 or so megabits per second. So to me, it seems pretty fast. Dark Vader, salute. Glad you could be here, man. Sham is in the house, says who will have the better 5G network. Kind of talking through it right now. So in terms of, T-Mobile, we're kind of in a holding phase. The network is not commercially available. Customers can't really access it. We've got some speed tests from people that are either working for Ookla or working for T-Mobile, and they're just speed testing it. It's in testing phases. That's millimeter wave. That's not even the 600 megahertz branded spectrum that's going to be probably the most prevalent nationwide. So I'm going to reserve judgment on T-Mobile until they actually deploy it. But as of right now, they don't have a 5G network that truly exists. So, if I had to rate those first three between Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, I have to rate Verizon first because they have it in 2 cities. AT&T there's no phones. I would be curious to see if anybody could connect to the AT&T 5G network with an unlocked Samsung Galaxy S10 5G from Verizon. And then, T-Mobile, we just have to wait. They have not made an official launch. No devices to connect to the 600 megahertz 5G. And then all we have is some testing going on in New York City and Manhattan. Although that is promising and it's millimeter wave, they're going to have the same problems that we're seeing with Verizon. You got to be really close to those nodes and those antennas. And if you're not, you're going to have trouble connecting. Matt, glad you could be here. Thank you for the compliment, man. I'm doing pretty good. I hope you are doing well also. Afina, I don't have a Snap. I'm old. I don't do Snap. Jarrett says there are phones that run on 600 megahertz, just not ready for 5G with 600 megahertz. Right, so you're not connecting to 5G. That's what we're talking about here. Fiend says the connection with 3G in Florida sucks. Yeah, any 3G sucks. Frankie says someone said 5G is not necessary or needed. Yes and no. 5G coupled with LTE greatly would benefit business in so many ways. It would benefit business. It would benefit enterprise. It would benefit, just any city dwellers, high densely packed population areas. I mean, you could imagine why T-Mobile's doing their initial millimeter wave testing in New York City. New York City has a lot of people. I could see it in Houston. They've got 4+ million people. I think Chicago's got 8 million people or something like that. Miami, LA. I mean, there's some pretty densely packed cities. Philadelphia. I mean, these are the cities that probably should be receiving millimeter wave applications. They need that, to really alleviate the congestion going on in the networks. T-Mobile's dealing with congestion in those cities. We know Verizon is. We know AT&T is. So 5G has its spot for that usage. I mean, hard to make that argument that we don't need it. Gary, you're going to have to talk to my mods about that, man. I don't control that stuff. Robert's in the house, says the Mi Mix 3 5G might work on low-frequency 5G. I don't know much about that phone. I know that it is a 5G phone, but isn't the Mi Mix like one of those it's like a Chinese branded phone? That's a Xiaomi, right? I don't know if they have compatibility here. It's a good question. I just couldn't tell you. I don't know enough about the radios that are built in there. Let's see. Oh, and that takes us to the fourth carrier, Sprint. Let's talk about Sprint's 5G. So currently, Sprint has one smartphone that is 5G connected to their network. It is the LG V50 5G. LG V50 ThinQ 5G. Brand new. They just dropped it. I think the pricing is at like $1,160. You can lease it. They give you these 18-month lease options, the flex lease or whatever it's called. That'll make it more affordable if you don't want to pay all that money. If you're looking for like a deal with a lower monthly payment. So they're doing that. The phone does appear to connect very well to the network. I did see some of the testing that was going on in certain markets. I think the test that I was seeing was in Dallas, and I didn't know Sprint had such a profound, I guess, networks emphasis in Dallas. Uh, but yeah, it looks like they did a lot of testing there. A lot of people got their hands on the devices connecting to the network, and it was very, very good. So what Sprint's doing is they're utilizing 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, which is they've had for a long time. That is spectrum that up until now has not really been used to its full potential, but the 5G is where it's at, and this is why T-Mobile wants Sprint. Yeah, they'll take the 55 million customers if they choose to stay, but they're really banking on trying to win 5G, and they'd be doing so with their own 600 megahertz, with Sprint's 2.5 gigahertz, and with the millimeter wave acquisitions that they got in auction 102, and they'll probably buy some more in auction 103. But they did buy big in auction 102. I don't think they'll be doing too much in 103, probably just filling the gaps and trying to get licenses in places that they don't have the 24 gigahertz or the 28. So, um, yeah, I kind of like what's going on there with what Sprint's doing. It seems to be the best connecting network. It does have good speeds. We're seeing ranges from 100 megabits per second all the way to like 700 plus megabits per second. So it's fast. I mean, it's much faster than Sprint's LTE. So there's clearly a market improvement in connectivity there compared to like what Verizon and T-Mobile are doing and AT&T. All three of the first three carriers I mentioned are flawed. Even Sprint's is flawed. It's still, it's not going to have the range that, T-Mobile's 600 megahertz is going to have. But this is real 5G, and it is good 5G. And it turned out really, really well. So, all right, who else we got in here? Raphael's in the house. Glad you could be here, buddy. Thank you for moderating. You guys better watch out for Raffy, man. He's modding tonight. I don't know what type of mood he's in, so watch yourselves. Keep it kosher in the chat. Sham says, "What do you think? Verizon is doing a good thing?" Yeah, Verizon will be fine. If there's any network that I trust, it's Verizon. I mean, they know networks. That's their thing. Yeah. Let me see if I can. Can't do it from my handheld device, Pete. Let's see here. Pete says I can maintain civil discourse without the rich. Frankie says 5G LTE continued for consumers. It's not a necessity, then it is a luxury, and that 4G LTE is plenty, unless you're gaming online heavily or running a small home business. Frankie, so that's a really general statement. I don't like it when people make statements that blanket, single or just like you're basically saying that these are the only people that could utilize 5G, as in nobody else could take advantage of it. I could utilize 5G, uploading all of my videos, uh, you know, transmitting this broadcast, getting those upload speeds, downloading large files. I mean, anybody could use 5G. I mean, 5G is our next network technology. I mean, who's to say who should be using it or who shouldn't? I don't know if I would want to say something as generalized as that. It's not just enterprise. It has its place when you need the help, right? When a network needs heavy lifting. So I have to disagree with you there. Ant-Man says, why didn't they have these issues with 4G? They did have these issues with 4G. I don't know how old you are, Ant-Man, but I'm old enough to remember when 4G and LTE first came out. It was spotty, limited, unreliable, and it was killing the battery life on phones. So these are the growing pains of new network tech. Blind Droid Tech says, I will let the carriers fight it out until they have a robust 5G network. Then maybe I will get a 5G device. 5G phones have to come down in price first. Well, you're probably going to be waiting until 2025 until we get like a robust 5G network. Because when you say robust, you're saying that it's going to be available in most markets. So you're going to be waiting a while, my friend. Pete says, I don't care, Sneed. Yeah, you do. Or else you wouldn't have said anything. Cesar, long time no see. Glad you could be here. Do you think Verizon will still be the top dog versus T-Mobile? If T-Mobile's going to surpass Verizon, it's not going to be until the end of the 2000s. And I really feel like if the merger was to be approved, it actually gets Verizon to stop resting on their laurels. I think it actually helps them change their business approach. And I think actually they are kind of transforming a little bit in terms of what they're trying to do for value. It's better today than it was 2 years ago. Yeah, make sure you guys are listening to Raphael. Go ahead and smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Robert brings up a good point. Says you have to remember that 5G is more of a game changer for IoT, smart city tech, and autonomous driving because of its latency. Yeah, those are all important applications, but I kind of hate it when I'm somewhere where there's a lot of people. I don't know, say like 4th of July, you're at the park and you're watching the fireworks and you have no network. 5G would work in that application. It would probably solve the problem. Midwest guy says, do you remember when Sprint was first with 4G and they turned out badly? Because they invested and took the wrong approach. They did everything wrong. They went WiMAX when everybody went LTE. They went Radio Shack and Nextel when everybody else was building out networks. So, yeah, that was just horrible decision making and just a complete failure. It's all on them. Billy says, I've been a Sprint customer back when they bought Nextel, so you've been there a while. John M says, I don't think T-Mobile will pass Verizon. I mean, the new T-Mobile can. T-Mobile as it is I mean, it's a daunting task. You think about T-Mobile, they've been growing at a rate of one or more million customers per quarter for like 25 or 26 quarters consecutively, and they still just have a little bit more than half of what Verizon has. Sad but true. Frankie, I not to argue or anything, but like I said, if somebody wants 5G and they can use it, I mean, who am I to say it's not designed for you? It's not about exception. It's not about generalizations. It's just this is a technology that has its place, and if somebody has a device that is compatible with it, they should be able to take advantage of it if they want to. Look, the thing is this. When carriers are selling devices with quad HD displays and they're restricting us to 720p video streams, yeah, I want 5G because I'm sick and tired of being restricted to 720p resolution. And I don't like the argument that people say, oh, on a small device, 720p is fine. No, it's not. If my phone is quad HD, I want to run it quad HD. On a 6-inch device, I can see the difference between quad HD and 720p. I have no idea why other people can't. I have no idea why. I can clearly see the difference. I know the difference between 1080p and 720p. I know the difference between 720p and 480p. I can see it. So to me, I'm sick of being restricted on what type of a speed I can have for video and what type of a speed I can have for audio. I don't want restrictions at all. So if they're going to offer me that availability and I'm willing to pay the price, or if it's included in my plan, that's what I want. You know, I want my dollars being spent in a way that allows for innovation in the space. And I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to pick on you or anything, but that school of thought is what is going to stifle the innovation. That's all I'm saying. Matt says, any updates on the merger? No, things have been pretty quiet. Raphael, I definitely agree. The Sprint Radio Shack thing was terrible. Radio Shack was a failing business from the beginning, and I don't think T-Mobile knew what they were doing. Joe is in the house, and Joe says he's been a customer with T-Mobile since the voice stream days. CG says limiting the video resolution and carriers saying you can't tell the difference is geared towards the common folk who don't know any better. CG, but that's the thing. It's not just the carriers telling us we can't see the difference. It's people that are customers that say they can't see the difference. I can't believe it. The fact that somebody says to me with a straight face, I can't tell the difference between 720p and 480. I don't know what to tell you. To me, it's a huge difference. And then, like for the people that say I can't tell the difference between 720 and 1080, same thing. I can clearly see the difference. Now, I used to have, I still have it. I have my Google Pixel 2 XL. It's a Quad HD display. I can clearly tell the difference between Quad HD and 1080p. I don't know why other people can't. Maybe they need their eyes checked. I don't know. Frankie says, talking 5G LTE, it's going to be a major data hog, so whomever is asking for it to be free, it's not realistic. I don't know. T-Mobile has already said that the 5G is going to be built into their network. They're not going to be charging extra for it. Robert brings up an interesting point. Do you see the government providing any subsidies for 5G since it's become a policy to beat China to it? They don't want to. They want the carriers to kind of do it themselves. I mean, you could see the billions that are being spent on the spectrum auctions. John says, is the game plan for Verizon to shut down CDMA and use their LTE with that 800 megahertz spectrum? Yeah, they're refarming all the CDMA stuff. All the CDMA, all the 2G, all that stuff, it's all going to be either refarmed to LTE or 5G. Gary, I still feel pretty confident about the merger. No worries here. It's pretty quiet right now. That's a pretty clear indicator that stuff is in the works. Afine, how you going to come into this live chat and start asking for money, man? You need to be sending super chats my way. Yeah, where are the super chats at tonight? I ain't get no super chats. And if you don't want a super chat, no problem. There's a link in the description box if you guys want to make a PayPal donation to Sneed Mobile Tech. $1 donations are cool. $10 donations are cool. It's all good. It all goes to Yasmin's college fund. Donations well spent. CG says, I agree. They can tell the difference when watching a movie at home versus going to the theater. I don't know. I could see a clear difference between all the resolutions. I mean, if it didn't matter, then why'd they upgrade the video resolutions every couple of years? Why? I remember when it was just 144 and then 240 and then 480. Like, if it doesn't matter, then why even bother with it? Why is there 4K and 8K? Gregory, glad you could be here. Thank you for stopping by. Joe, those rumors about the centralized 5G, that dates back about a year ago. It was just Trump talking. Anybody can say anything, but until there's legislation to it, you just can't believe it. Dark Vader says, did they say Trump tried to interfere with the merger? Because I think he'd steer clear of it. So here's the thing. The video that I did a couple days ago on the whole Trump interference thing, they're not saying that he did. They wrote a letter, the senators, the group of senators, they wrote a letter to say that we're concerned that we don't want any type of interference. We want any type of decision from the DOJ to be free of any bias, free of any political interference. So it's just, hey, whatever might be or may have happened, we don't know, but we want an unbiased, unadulterated decision. We just want it to be run through its paces without any interference. DGAF is in the house. Glad you could be here, buddy. Billy Tudor's in the house. Dropped off a super chat. Thanks, man. Stacy says, I don't agree with Verizon charging extra for the S10 5G even when you aren't on a 5G network. Well, it's your decision if you choose to buy the phone. The phone's selling for $1,300. If you finance it, it's going to cost you about $54 a month. It's a very expensive phone. Troy says, I think we'll hear some news from the merger by the end of the week. Maybe. Or it could be one of them quiet weeks, and then it just drops it on us like on a Sunday or a Saturday night or a Sunday morning kind of thing. I'll keep you guys posted. Michael Forner says, so can I. I can completely agree on the resolution. Yeah, I don't when people say I can't see the difference, like, why can't you see the difference? I don't know. I'm Kelleher. Glad you could stop by, man. Go ahead and catch it on the replay. Thank you, John. M. Keller says, looks like Sprint is actually doing the best in this particular department. I know their LTE coverage is very good in my area, except calling plus, which sucks half the time when you're moving. Yeah, it's not that dependable. Jose, glad you could be here, man. Thank you for stopping by. Jarrett says, is there any spectrum that is lower than 600 megahertz, and where is it at, and could it be auctioned off? Not that I know of. Pete seems to have a good understanding of the different spectrum types that are out there. I don't think anybody is commercially deploying anything lower than 600 megahertz. That seems to be the lowest that I've identified. Gary, thanks for the super chat, man. Much appreciated. Robert says, to those of you who are afraid of price increases, keep in mind that 5G has a lower cost per byte than 4G. So in theory, it should further bring down our per gigabyte cost as consumers. I don't know. I think that's to be determined, man. I don't know. It depends how they price it. Verizon's adding $10 to have 5G. T-Mobile's including it, so they're not charging extra. And then you have AT&T, which they're going to be charging by price, or they're going to be charging their prices by speed and by allotment. So they're going like with fixed line pricing, which is horrible. So we'll have to wait and see. John with the joke of the night. 6G is on the way. Stay tuned. CP, I've heard of 550 megahertz too, but I don't know who owns it, who is using it previously. I'm guessing that's radio waves, right? Like that's probably like when they get that low, that's like AM radio stations, FM radio stations. Bo Blue says, is John Legere leaving T-Mobile as CEO after the merger? Man, there's a lot of speculation going on. If the merger is approved, that John could be heading out of T-Mobile as the CEO. Look, he's been with the company a long time. He's the reason why it is successful. The whole initiative of the Un-carrier, he's the face of the franchise. I mean, he's achieved a lot. If he was to walk away from the CEO position but remain as an advisor or a coordinator, like on a certain level, but not necessarily like the CEO, I would still be okay with it because he still would represent the company. He'd still be guiding some of the administrators and some of the management teams. So just because he doesn't stay on as CEO, it doesn't mean he's out of the company. So, he has his right, if he wants to walk away. He's done the company good. I'm sure he'll leave it to good hands, whoever they put in place. And I'm also hearing that Braxton Carter might be on his way out. There's a lot of rumor and speculation. It's hard for me to feed into it. But if they decided to move on or change their positions within the company, I'm okay with it. They've done a lot of good for the company. Oh, Pete, you trying to get in here, man? Pete, let me know if you're trying to get in. Jump in. John M says, loving Sprint CDMA voice network. You know me. John, I can't support you there, man. I'm just not into CDMA, man. I'm an LTE guy. All right, Pete, just up the ante. 9GE. Wow. Troy with the super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity and your considerations. Thank you. Flyboy Rex says, whatever happened to Light Squared? They were trying to use spectrum that was close to GPS. I don't know. I feel like I did an update video on that a while back, sometime last year, maybe in the summer. Yeah, Steve, the way that Sprint's doing their pricing is they're charging $80 per month for the 5G plan. That'll get you 100 gigs of hotspot data, 5G, and 100 gigs of regular data usage. So gets you covered. I know, Raphael. I'm trying to get the super chats, man. The people that have donated so far. Thank you guys so much. We love super chats. Get a special shout out if you give up a super chat. Let's see here. Afeen says, what is your gamer tag on Xbox? I don't even know, man. It was like one of the self-generated ones. Omar says the iPhone will work outside the USA and 2G in Mexico. Yeah, most of the 2G, Edge, and even 3G connectivity is compatible outside the US. All right, let's see if we can get Pete in here. Let's see if we can get Pete in here. You guys hang tight, all right? Working on getting Pete in here. Pete, get up in here, buddy.
Wow, my output changed.
Hey, we had to give it to the people. We had to get Pete in the chat. Let me know when you're ready, Pete. I'm gonna keep going here with the live chat. All right, Troy just upped the ante. He took your 9G and made 10G. It a 10G.
John Ledger was not talking about 10G.
Keep the 10G. I'm trying to get 10Gs.
By the way, yeah, the 550 is the UHF spectrum, and there are still a few extended digital broadcasters working on that.
Well, as long as they're broadcasting, then it's not going to be available for any type of cell phone transmission.
Although I think there are like 2 channels for IoT in there, but it's been a while since I read the specs.
All right, so Pete, it's good to have you on, buddy. Glad you could make it tonight. Ooh, long time no see. Love Tech 47. Glad you could be here, buddy. John says, always more bars when I'm on CDMA versus voice over LTE. My friend on Verizon purposely has voice over LTE off because the LTE by our house is super weak and our calls cut out. But see, that's the thing. If you have a reliable LTE network, CDMA is a non-issue. The only reason why Sprint is relying so heavily on their CDMA is because their LTE is poor. I mean, Pete, would you agree that Verizon is like the exact opposite of what Sprint is doing with their CDMA?
Verizon just shut it down and CDMA down in my market, so
yeah, they're going
smart choices there.
They're gonna convert that into either LTE or 5G.
They're doing 5G with it. Real quick, Afine Legion. Sneed is rocking a Pixel 3a XL. Rafael Perez. Digital spectrum is not infinite. You need a certain amount of waves to throw those ones and zeros through the air. Heath Gaskill. 4G will be available. I think the phase-out period is sometime in 2030. And I'm caught up in chat.
Unfortunately, I don't think the LTE is going to be gone by 2030.
That's when they're starting to like turn it off. I mean, heck, we've had 3G for longer than end-of-life support was suspected too, so...
But see, even 3G has its place.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not going to have its place in 2030. But I would be surprised if there was no LTE in 2030. That would surprise me.
I think that's when end of life is starting.
So maybe another 2 or 3 years after that.
But remember, there are a lot of LTE frequencies that are backbones for 5G.
I'm telling you, man, those low frequency LTE channels, those bands, they're not going anywhere.
Nope. If you can improve the spectrum and do what they did with black and white to color TV with the airwaves, there's no point in getting rid of it. That's why the Sprint 5G devices are throttling you down to 2 and 3G respectively.
So that's one of the things that I actually don't like about the Sprint 5G announcement was after 100. Well, after 100, well, the pricing, but after the 100 gigs of usage, they're slowing you down. And they're not slowing you down to LTE. They're slowing you down to 3G.
Well, the 3G is in that radio range, so they can just modulate to it.
But what I don't understand is if the chip has LTE connectivity built in.
It's total BS.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Nocturnal's in the house. Heavy moderation. Glad you could be here. Bobu says why Verizon is striving to use millimeter wave with limited coverage but great speed, while Sprint using low to mid-band for greater coverage but with slightly lower speed. It's just about what's available to them right now. You get what I'm saying? Like, Verizon doesn't have low-band frequency right now to allocate to 5G. They have millimeter wave. That's what they own a lot of, and that can carry the speeds. And they also know that the only places that really need the 5G are these city centers that have a lot of people that are going to be tightly packed in these areas. So,
sport games.
I mean, if you've got, let's take Chicago, for example, Soldier Field. Every Sunday, well, I shouldn't say every Sunday, 8 to 10 Sundays a year, they're going to have 50, 60, 70,000 people in that stadium. 5G could be used there. That's perfect application, right?
Wrigley Field can use some 5G. I had some spotty 4G the last time I went there.
You probably only had spotty 4G because capacity.
Yep.
As soon as the LTE was failing, it slid you out to 3G. Let's see who else is in the chat. We've got Flyboy Rex says, do you think John is going to keep the Verizon guy and the robot around after the merger? Timothy says 2G and 3G for most carriers will be turned off by the end of the year. Not AT&T. They're hanging on for a couple more years. Verizon is shutting it down. And Sprint cannot shut it down. They can't afford to. Their network won't run. DC Redskin says, do you think Amazon is really interested in buying Boost Mobile? I don't know. That's what sources are saying. I'm not sure if it's the truth. I mean, that's what sources are reporting. But actually, I don't get how Amazon popped into it. I trust that the sources are knowledgeable on the matter. I just don't get it. I'm not sure. Unless Amazon just has plans to get Alexa connected to everything, which I think would be the thing, and then also maybe a network to run the drones. I don't know.
I'd hate Amazon roaming on T-Mobile. All those Alexa queries and it listening to the diapers you don't want to buy.
Adam says, you still think John Ledger is going to retire after a post-successful merger? Well, I mean, he's got 70 million reasons to retire after the merger. Sneed, why do you think T-Mobile is putting more and more LAA small cells? They need the speed. Speeds are really slow in certain cities. And the LAA spectrum, it's really freaking fast. Pete, have you seen the speed test on that?
No.
LAA spectrum is amazing. I'm talking like LTE is getting like 230 megs per second. David says prepaid T-Mobile is $70 for unlimited, but Metro is $60 for unlimited W2EF, and Metro would be probably deprioritized before the T-Mobile prepaid proper. So
it is.
So that's what you're dealing with there. Stacy says once 5G is widespread, do you think carriers will deprioritize the LTE speeds? No. If 5G is done right, you won't need to deprioritize anything. say goodbye to deprioritization and network management. And the more that people go on to 5G, the less people there is on LTE.
Although the 5G frequency for like T-Mobile, some of it will still technically be LTE, but it will get out of the LTE range faster.
Well, that's just the 600 megahertz. That's going to be band 71.
They're doing a good job with that in the integration, though.
I trust in what Neville's doing. I'm not worried about T-Mobile in that integration side.
I'd listen to Neville sooner than the Dalai Lama.
John says, how do I identify a small cell? They look like little upside down buckets on the top of like light poles and power poles and stuff like that. Sometimes they put them on like street lights. I've seen them on like the actual assembly that, the pole that has like the red light, green light, that stuff. I've seen them right there. Babu says, I thought Dish Network might be a better player to own Boost, as they do own some wireless spectrum. It's irrelevant. Apparently, you can just own spectrum and not have to use it. I don't get why the FCC doesn't figure this out. Flyboy Rex says, how do you see T-Mobile transitioning over compatible Sprint devices to the new T-Mobile network? How would you do it? Well, the transitioning for about 2/3 of the devices will be easy. The devices will just have to be unlocked. And Sprint can do that with a switch. Once those devices are unlocked, most of them will be readily available to use freely on the T-Mobile network. The only issue is going to be legacy tech. Anybody running on a 3G only device. So that'll be a problem. And then anybody with a smartphone that's like 4 or 5 years older. So we're talking any phone like 2015 or older. So if somebody's got like an iPhone 5S or something, that could be an issue. Blind Droid Tech, thank you for being here. Have a good night, sir. Afeen, from what I know, there is no 5G city sites in Florida. DC Redskin says, what carrier has LAA spectrum? All of them do. I'm not sure about Sprint. They might, but I'm definitely sure that AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile all have LAA. It's open. It's available for all the carriers to use.
Sprint can roam into that for T-Mobile, though, so it's not a total loss.
Jarrett says, what's the distance range for 28 and 24 megahertz versus 2.5? To give you perspective, if you wanted to connect your device to either 24 or 28 megahertz spectrum, you would probably have to be within 30 feet direct line. 2.5 gigahertz, from what we're seeing in Dallas with Sprint's network, they're connecting and moving vehicles. So that means several hundreds of feet. And that's not even with a lot of spectrum. Pete, did you know they're only using 40 megahertz blocks?
Well, it is digital, so that can hold modulated like 40-ish people.
But if you think about it, like if you're running 40 megahertz of spectrum and you're getting 700 megabits per second, what's 100 megahertz going to get you?
Depends on how you program the antennas.
Program them for downlink, which is all they're doing right now. They're not doing uplink.
Well, no, if you program them to take the 100 megahertz, you'd be getting 0.6 more download. I think it scales 1-to-1 for that.
So 60% more?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd be getting almost a full gig.
Yeah. So if you can, piece them together, but phones typically do four signals at the same time.
So are they going to be able to do 4 carrier aggregation with their 5G?
I'd like to see them start with 2 carrier, which would give you about the gig speed. But 4 carrier would be amazing.
4 carrier to put them at about 1.5 gigs easy.
Yeah.
So I remember when somebody from SoftBank was talking about Spectrum, and they said that they have applications in Japan where, they're getting 3 and 4 carrier aggregation, and they're using 100 to 150 megahertz of spectrum in those blocks, and they're getting like 4 gigs per second.
Well, that's Japan. For some reason, their diet knows more about cellular communications than our Congress. And it was the U.S. that showed them through an alliance the how you actually run this type of network. So the U.S. is letting itself down.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball. David says, if Boost gets sold to a crappy company, what should I move to? I wouldn't move off of Boost just yet. I would be in a holding stage with Boost.
You'd still probably get the same roaming agreements to the new T-Mobile. So
no, the new Boost would be better. I think you get better network performance.
Yeah, but you'd probably be able to roam to the new T-Mobile. The only issue is if they get bought out by a bad carrier, price jacking. So if they price you out, then you encounter the issue. If not, don't worry about it.
Nocturnal says, I have a 600 megahertz tower near me. I can't get cell service, though. You got to upgrade your device. You got to get a Band 71 compatible phone.
He has a T6 on T-Mobile.
When was the T6 released?
I think that was just before the 600 antenna for T-Mobile.
If that phone is older than a year, it's not going to have it.
The 6T gets it, not the 6.
Oh, are you talking about the OnePlus?
Yeah.
OnePlus 6 does not have Band 71.
Yeah, that's his issue.
6T does. Actually, the 6T is built for speed on the T-Mobile network, not just the Band 71, but speed too.
I'm kind of jealous of my sister's speed on her 6T.
It's a nice phone, man. Nice design too. I'd actually prefer that over the new 7 Pro.
Yeah.
Lavendi says AT&T has 5G for the Nighthawk hotspots in Jacksonville. I didn't know that Jacksonville had 5G. I didn't see it on the list from AT&T. So
wait, the Jacksonville fans haven't removed the antennas yet?
Robert says, how much terrestrial fiber infrastructure would T-Mobile get from Sprint after the merger to actually get these towers online? I have no clue. Afine says, when I'm roaming on my Sprint phone, am I roaming on T-Mobile? Probably.
Most likely.
Which is a good thing because their service is pretty good. The only problem is what band do you think he's connecting to, Pete? Band 2?
It depends by, I think it varies by area.
They're not going to give him Band 71.
No, not 71, but it will be like one of the standard bands.
Like Band 2 or 4, probably.
John M. saying Band 4. So let's go with Band 4.
Yeah.
Probably knows better than we do.
Timothy says 2.5 gigahertz should travel about a mile according to T-Mobile engineering team. I don't know if it'll be that far. I mean, that might
is that through walls?
That might be the theoretical, but that's not going to be realistic, I don't think. DC says, what carrier do you have? I currently have Sprint. They work great in my area, which is Virginia. I haven't heard that. We were doing some traveling a few years ago, and we had people with Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T. It was a whole mix of us, and the only people getting coverage was AT&T and Verizon. But I mean that's the interstate, so I don't know. Frankie says, when will GSM and CDMA shut down now that everything runs on 4G, 5G, and LTE? CDMA shutdown is happening very, very soon for the most part. Verizon's shutting theirs down. Sprint, once the merger happens, that theirs will be shut down. GSM is, I don't know. It kind of depends on the MVNOs. I don't know what T-Mobile is going to do on their side and what AT&T is going to do. So, but they're not shutting down anything for at least 3 years. AT&T side. Pete, what phone do you have, man?
Pixel 3 XL. It's been that way since it came out. I got a launch day Pixel 3 XL, man.
They shipped it to you same day?
I don't know. They seem to like to appease me.
Trey says, do you think AT&T owning a media Hollywood company is good for them? I'm not sure what you're referring to.
AOL Time Warner.
Oh.
Well, not AOL. They're now with Oath, but 5G signal.
Oath is Verizon, man.
Yeah. So 5G signal will travel far as long as it's not a really high frequency.
You know, Timothy, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a mile. I don't know. It's got to be some flat land. I know that.
Thanks, Jamil, for the $2. Jarrett, yes, 600 megahertz travels further than 700.
Jamil Salamat, thank you so much for the kindness and the generosity. Afin says Sprint is the worst ever. Customer service is an F+. Well, at least you gave him a plus.
So anything lower than a B- is failing.
Well, you got some high standards. You must be in a master's program.
Yep. And actually, my last semester as an undergrad, I got 2 A's and 2 A-. So,
man, I got a B+ in one of my master's classes. I was pissed.
Oh God, which class?
I was pissed. I don't know. There was like a final project. I don't know. I think I messed up one part of the project, and I was just unclear about the expectation. So, on one of the ratings on the rubric, I got like a 2 out of 11.
Ouch.
And it just killed my grade, yeah. Who else we got in here? Raphael says a lot of customers seem to have Sprint, though. I mean, yeah, I feel like Sprint's pretty well represented on the channel.
Yeah, they.
I mean, who's doing pricing better than Sprint, Pete?
I was about to say that. No, they're like trying to. They've been trying to compete for price.
They just can't compete from the performance side.
Yeah. And I believe I've pointed this out. The like free cell service for your stuff, I think they're using it to wait. You get a free $2 a month because you have YouTube Music sub.
How does that work?
But the numbers, they're using the free and the highly reduced things to bolster their customer number so it looks better for investors.
Yeah, but everybody's onto that BS.
Yep.
You know, investors aren't stupid. They're like, where's the profits? You're operating at a loss.
Let's see.
You know, there was somebody, let me see if I could find it. John M. says, I got to get rid of this $40 a month Note 8 ASAP. Well, if you've been paying $40 a month for that Note 8, I'm assuming you're probably within your last 4 or 5 payments. Should be wrapping up that payment. I would just pay it off and move on. Unless you had a trade-in and you're kind of stuck, and then you're going to have to pay, you know, more money to just get out of the contract. Kind of sucks. I mean, they're just expensive devices. Those Notes are nice phones, but they are very pricey. Oh, you're in the Flex lease, so you should be. at the point where you're going to be walking away from it soon.
I don't see a $2 a month thing on my GPay for this.
Is that a carrier thing?
No. I have T-Mobile Music, etc. So, or not T-Mobile, Google Music, etc.
Pete,
What?
Who's winning 5G right now, man?
Sprint. Didn't we?
That's exactly what I was saying.
Didn't we say Sprint? First podcast I was on.
People are legitimately acting like I'm crazy when I'm saying that they're winning 5G, but it's the best connectivity.
You can get 5G in Overland Park, Kansas with the wind blowing, and that's better than Verizon in Chicago. And Chicago's windy.
But what if it rains?
You get 5G in Overland Park. You might get cancer, but you get 5G in Overland Park.
Hey, Pete, I don't know what's going on in the comment sections of my most recent videos, but like everybody thinks we're going to turn into mutants because of 5G, man.
We're not.
I don't understand. Like, so
they said the same thing when we went from radio to black and white TV and black and white to color TV.
Pete, how much? I don't know. Like, did you take physics in high school or in college?
Yep.
Do you remember how your teachers taught you about wave frequencies?
Yep.
Do you remember looking in textbooks at high frequency and low frequency waves?
So high frequency, like the 5G, the dead skin in your epidermis will destroy the wavelength.
I've been trying to explain to some of the people in the comment sections of the videos. They're saying things like, "I pray to Jesus Christ to save me from 5G." Like they're literally in panic.
The biggest issue I've read about 5G is some of the frequency the FCC is selling is used in hurricane prediction.
Oh, so it's going to get in the way during like the natural disasters.
Yeah, okay. And the FCC should know better.
They're going to have to figure that part out for sure.
Yeah.
But Dave, like when you think about the actual way that these frequencies of waves travel, as soon as a 5G signal is transmitted, literally every 6 inches, 12 inches, every couple of feet, the magnitude and the intensity of that wave is decreased substantially. And I'm just talking within like 10, 20 feet. The intensity of UV rays that hit our skin from the sun are worse. People go to the doctor and get x-rays like every couple of months. That stuff
I don't get x-rays that often.
But there are people that get x-rays frequently because they think they break their bones all the time.
You mutate quicker due to radiation flying in an airplane than you would in the 5G environment.
My problem is this. I have received formal education in physics. It's part of my credential as being a high school science teacher. I took physics in high school. I took 3 physics classes in college. I know how waves propagate, and I know what frequency of waves can and can't make it through certain barriers.
I should have hit you up for help in my physics class before dropping it.
And I did very well in physics. I mean, one of the most important things was you had to understand the difference between low frequency wave transmission and high.
Yep.
And it always made very clear sense to me. Low frequency waves can travel. High frequency waves weaken very easily and very quickly. Millimeter wave spectrum weakens very quickly.
So,
go ahead.
I got that right on an online physics class while taking an exam. And I forgot about the exam, and I ended up taking it on mushrooms.
What?
Yeah, online physics class, took it on exam on shrooms. I got that right.
Well, at least you got one right.
I had to drop that due to a job I was working where every week I was a day off on the assignments.
You know what's crazy, Pete? It's gotten literally to the point where when people comment, "Are we all turning into mutants and we're all gonna die?" I just say, "Hold on a second, let me go get my tinfoil hat. I'm gonna go call Alex Jones right now."
Well, we constantly mutate, but not the way people see, like in Spider-Man.
No, that's true. I'm a biology teacher. I know all about programmed cell growth. I know all about programmed cell death and all that.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. When people say things like that, my question is, do you smoke? Do you stand outside wearing short sleeve shirts? Have you been putting your food in a microwave? Do you listen to the radio? Do you drive a car?
Microwave.
But I'm just saying, like, these people that are worried about 5G, where was your concern for everything else? Do you have a router in your home that is operating on 2 channels?
3.
2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz. What else?
I have one in my lab that gets that Japanese frequency.
So my point is, where is your concern on those things? Why are you only concerned about 5G? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's all. Follow the law, damn it, says, but you also need to know the medical side of it with the phone so close to your face. I mean, when are you
getting through that?
How often are you going to be connected to the 5G network? I don't know. 24 hours a day? I don't know anybody with a phone connected to their face 24 hours a day.
I'd hate having a phone next to my
follow the law, damn it, says there's so much that we really don't know. But I say just wait until we see people becoming deformed. Worry about it. Well, anybody with a basic fundamental understanding of physics knows how these waves work.
So I have this beer bottle. It's a microbrew from Fort Collins, Colorado. The brown tint in this beer bottle will destroy a 5G frequency wave. Think about that one. The brown tint will destroy a frequency wave. So by doing this, I'm protected.
Follow the law, damn it, says good point. I'm throwing my routers out tonight. Hey, Pete, we're going to be responsible for a mass exodus of router connectivity tonight.
Don't throw out the routers.
Send them here.
They're perfectly. Send them to either Sneed or myself. I refurbish them, but they're perfectly good recycling places that will accept them.
Yeah, please go ahead and donate them to Sneed Mobile Tech. Jarrett says, can a cell signal be boosted by increasing power to the towers or any other way? Pete, that's you.
Wait, what was that?
Can a cell signal be boosted by increasing power to the towers or any other way?
Yes.
Yeah, but those power, they got to push the antennas, right?
More electricity means it goes further faster. However, if you give too much electricity, it implodes on itself.
Nocturnal says, Sneed, I have an arm growing out of my head. Please help. I can't stop hearing people complain about 5G. I don't know. I'm going to get my tinfoil hat. Where is Alex Jones? I called him. Where is he?
He's in jail for creeping out the soccer moms. Yes, you need to make brown beer bottle helmets.
What do we have for likes right now in the live chat? 11? Are you guys kidding me?
43.
Oh, I was going to say, man, I got to update this. Wow. Looks like we've got 42. Who are the 2 idiots that gave this a thumbs down? What's up with that, man? Ridiculous. Come here to give me a thumbs down.
Engrossing conversation. We're talking about how the 6 gigahertz spectrum doesn't work in sweat.
Zen is in the house. Says, sorry I'm late. I was playing Diablo on the PS3.
Did you hack your character up to be Uber on the PS3?
I don't even know what that game is.
You play Gauntlet?
I play FIFA.
Wait, they released it on the Xbox?
Yeah, dude. I've been playing FIFA for years. Follow the law, damn it, says AT&T CEO is the thumbs down. I do dog AT&T pretty hardcore.
Yep. Jail. Yes, lead will protect you even from the radiation that will make you sterile.
You know what's crazy? Oscar's in the house. Glad you could be here. So, Pete, in the comment section of today's video, there was a commenter, and he said, Sneed, why don't you connect with like T-Mobile News or, like some kind of a news outlet? And I thought to myself, there's no way I could do that.
I connect with them.
But as somebody whose channel is complete mission is to analyze, critique, and at moments I have to put carriers down for when they do things wrong. And I can't ever be at a point where my authenticity, my integrity is in question and people saying that I'm affiliated with a certain carrier. But I thought about it, like, I do a lot of T-Mobile news because T-Mobile is very active as a company.
I see very little Verizon news personally.
But Verizon's a quiet carrier. They're like ninjas. They're like thieves in the night. You never know what happens with Verizon until the day of.
The biggest news I found from Verizon was them censoring Tumblr.
Yeah, but didn't they stop that?
I don't know.
But that's not even news. That doesn't even matter.
Yeah, but that was the biggest news, and I had a professor freaking out over it.
Nocturnal, make sure you go ahead and send a text over to Alex Jones, please. Let him know if we can get at least, how many subscribers are we up to, Pete?
Let's see. It says 3.6K.
So I'm going to need 3.6 thousand tinfoil hats, please.
Explain why you dog AT&T so hard. That's simple. Fees. Ninja fees. Fees for getting fees.
DC says, Sneed, would you leave Sprint if the merger didn't go through? Just an example of who would you go with? First of all, I wouldn't still be with Sprint. Because I'm talking here in Cleveland, like they're impossible to have here. There's just so much 3G, it's crazy. But I would move to T-Mobile with the quickness.
Let's see. My current phone cost me $1,000. This is follow the Lord, damn it. Okay, serious question, both you guys. When you decide to buy your next $1,000 phone that gets 5G, maybe when I can justify purchasing.
Well, just based on principle, I'm not buying $1,000 phone.
I mean, I could justify purchasing the 3XL, but I don't think I could justify a 5G phone until it's at a critical mass in my area.
It's got to be available in your market, or else what's the point? I mean, how often will you connect to one?
And tell you the truth, on my 3XL, I would still be benefiting from T-Mobile 5G.
I will buy the first $700 5G phone when 5G is available in my market.
My city has great backhaul. I think the cell providers have partnered with the city internet for nice clean fiber.
Jarrett says T-Mobile is wanting to roll out connectivity in rural areas, but don't you have to have good backhaul in these areas? There's places where there are no connections out here through fiber. Isn't T-Mobile pretty good about their backhaul in rural areas now with Band 71?
By backhaul, that's the line going to the central hub. Typically, it's fiber optic. T-Mobile does try to build fiber to tower, And when they can't, they do industrial grade radio communication transmissions that are not used for cellular service. And Neville's pretty good at doing backhaul.
I can tell you right now that every new macro site that T-Mobile builds is getting fiber.
Yep.
And they are also upgrading. All the Band 71 and 10 upgrades are also receiving fiber.
Yep.
I mean, that might not finish probably in, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I mean, you're talking nationwide. It's going to take time. But all the new stuff is getting fiber.
John M. is wondering when we're going to do the iPhone versus Android video.
I don't know. I don't really have interest in it.
I worked for Apple Care for a year and a half. I can tell you that most of the issues I've encountered with iPhones there, my Galaxy S4 was impervious to.
Jamil says, hey guys, are you Android or iPhone? I'm Android. Pete's Android. He worked with Apple. I third party do repairs on iPhones. So I don't know. Stacy says, how often do you guys upgrade? What is your main reason for upgrading? I upgrade for battery life.
I upgrade when my phone starts turning off at 30% and I can't justify shortening my life replacing the battery.
Yeah, I as soon as, like, for example, I had the Pixel 2 XL and it was problematic. I liked it, but it was problematic. So they gave me a replacement device. I'm going to sell the replacement device. I upgraded to the Pixel 2 or Pixel 3a XL. And it was a good upgrade. I mean, I actually upgraded by downgrading. I got a headphone jack. I've got better sound audio coming out of the speakers and through the headphone jack. And the battery life has been terrific. It's a better phone than my 2XL. Seriously. And it's half the price. Now, it's not better than a 3XL, but it's better than a 2XL.
Well, it is if you don't like the notch.
Yeah, but you could turn off the notch and it'll look identical to the 3XL.
I mean, I barely noticed the notch.
Yeah, you're not going to notice it anymore at this point. You've had it for months. DC says, Team iPhone XS Max here. DC, you are $1,300 less rich than I am.
You are XS Max, like $600 less rich than I am. And I wrote off my phone as a tax deduction.
What does that save you? About $100?
This did $250.
Wow, nice.
But still, it's a $750 after taxes.
So I hate my iPhone 5S. There's somebody with a 5S in here, Pete.
Yeah. So John M., I work as an IT consultant and a in-person repair person, and actually today I got a job maintaining $30,000 worth of server rack. But yeah, it's a consulting thing. If I have the latest and greatest, people have more faith in my opinions.
Pete is a credible source. Good at what he does.
Actually, last night I just got done setting up two websites to force to HTTPS. That was rather frustrating. Took me 4 hours for debugging one line of code written in C.
So, Pete, the current state of affairs, Sprint's winning 5G.
Yep.
Who will win 5G?
Not AT&T.
I don't know, man. Their sub 6 gigahertz looks good.
Yeah, but they're too busy investing in a Game of Thrones ripoff to put on their HBO.
So they're going to be slow to network deployment.
Yep.
sub 6 or not, it doesn't matter. I think Verizon, you got to give them the upper hand. They just seem to know what they're doing. I'd say with merger, I'd say that T-Mobile is.
I'd say T-Mobile, Sprint, and then Verizon third. And Charles Jackson, I have written off 3 phones last year, all for employees, including myself, and I get to write off half my my cell service.
Pete, are you into computers?
Yep.
So Jarrett says, did y'all see the power that the new Mac Pro can produce? Did you see that yesterday?
Yeah, and I can build something out like that with a Ryzen box that does pretty much the same thing for roughly the same price. Yeah.
Frankie Hernandez says, if the merger falls
and run Mac OS 10.
Frankie says, if the merger falls through, how will it impact both companies' rollout? I'm assuming he's saying T-Mobile and Sprint.
It will go up.
Well, Sprint is going to have a hard time rolling out 5G. They don't have the money.
Well, during the merger, you'll get the 2.4 gigahertz refarmed into 5G frequency for T-Mobile, and you'll basically be getting in 3.5 years.
No. He's saying if the merger fails.
Oh.
So where does that put T-Mobile? Where does that put Sprint?
T-Mobile will continue developing their backbone and trying to develop their newly acquired assets. By backbone, I mean 71. Sprint, they will do slow rollout, trying to get revenue from people buying into their capped data. And Robert, Threadripper, you can actually get like a 2-core, 2 CPU board that hits the new Mac Pro.
If the T-Mobile and Sprint merger fails, T-Mobile's 5G will be the least in terms of speed.
It'll be roaming on T-Mobile.
It'll be the slowest 5G nationwide, but it'll be abundant. You know, it'll travel well, but it's not going to be fast. You'd be lucky to get 100 meg speed. Seriously.
Once it reaches capacity, yeah.
And then Sprint, there'll be so limited markets. And there's not going to be much of it. It's going to be too costly. They're not going to want to upgrade it. If the merger fails, Sprint's going to try to find another merger.
Yeah.
They're going to try to find another company. They're going to start knocking on the door. They'll be knocking at Dish's door. They'll be knocking at Comcast's door. They'll be trying to figure out how they're going to become a regional carrier. They're going to get away from nationwide. I believe that.
Technically, if you think about it, T-Mobile is currently winning the 5G rollout.
How?
Band 71 is going to be their backbone.
But it doesn't exist yet.
I get it in Wyoming.
I mean, their 5G network doesn't exist. There's not a single phone connecting to it.
No.
All we have is an unlocked Samsung Galaxy S10 from Verizon that's connected to their testing bed in New York City.
Nocturnal. Apple started going downhill during Steve Jobs' life when they shifted their focus to mobile devices rather than a superior hardware-software experience.
Stacy says Verizon or T-Mobile has deeper pockets. It's Verizon. It's not even close.
Yeah, Verizon has a Nintendo-sized war chest. And Nintendo, for all the gloom and doom, they still have like $6 billion in liquid assets.
Rafi, thanks for the compliment, man. Steve,
Raphael.
Steve says Sprint's got a head start with the 2.5, and they had 600. No one can touch them. That gets them covered. They'll be blanketing the nation. Raphael says, how is AT&T doing with 5G? They just have no devices to connect to it.
And it works in Texas.
Nocturnal says Apple is trash. Apple fell after Steve Jobs died.
Yeah, I commented on that already.
And isn't that the truth, man? It's almost like Apple died with Steve Jobs.
No, it happened before Steve Jobs died. It died with the iPad.
I'd say, I don't know. I think the problem with what Apple has done, I think their services they're focusing on their core services now, but they were so heavily emphasizing hardware, but their hardware was not improving. It was very stale, both from the computer side and also from the smartphone side.
Yeah. I run Mac OS personally, not as my daily driver. I use it for Photoshop. I'm running it on a Dell Dimension blade on my floor.
Charles Jackson says, will 5G kill unlimited, or do you think it's here to stay? Why would 5G kill unlimited? 5G would probably help unlimited. I mean, you're not concerned about data usage if you're at 5G speed.
So real quick, I got another 10 minutes before I gotta get up. See, Jarrett saying, from what I understand, all the new T-Mobile 600 megahertz antenna are already equipped for 5G and capacity. Yes, all they do need to do is do a software update. They've deliberately rolled it out that way. Robert, those keyboards are a pain to replace. I've tried it. I also haven't heard the rumor about Deutsche Telekom willing to give up T-Mobile USA post-merger.
That's news to me. I haven't heard that.
Well,
are there stories on that? Any credible sources?
If they gave up T-Mobile, it can no longer be the T-Mobile name because internationally they own the name T-Mobile.
And they would continue to use that in Europe.
And I think now parts of Asia. And there are Deutsche Telekom is a multi-billion-dollar company too.
Oh, they're big time in Germany.
They're actually competing with AWS.
Nocturnal says, "What's your opinion on Tim Cook and Apple?" So, what's your opinion on Tim Apple?
He's great at making it so you go to. He's great at minimizing the amount of depot, warehouse storage the company needs, which is a good way of boosting revenue, which is good for his position. But I don't think he has the same charisma Steve Jobs or Steve Wozniak did.
I'm not a fan of Tim Cook. I don't know. He seems uncomfortable in his own skin.
I don't think he likes the sneakers and the no tie, personally.
You think he'd rather wear a tie?
I think he'd rather not be on stage.
Well, that's Tim Apple for you, man. He's going to have to be on stage. The company needs a face.
Sprint spent $136 million on the T-Mobile merger. What are your sources, Frankie?
I actually came across that story. Yeah, they've spent a lot. It's all executive-based expenditure. I can't believe it. Isn't that a crazy number?
Yeah. Robert, I'm expecting them to go back to the risk instruction set by going with their A-series arms prior to 2022. And quite frankly, all their new computers have subprocessors for security and biometric and keyboard recognition and system BIOS control that already runs ARM. So it's just a matter of time before they replace the main CPU.
Pete, did you catch the video today on the international pass changes?
Yeah.
So it's
They're
$5.
competitive.
Yeah, they are good. So it's $5 for a day, gets you a half a gig of data. It's $35 for a 10-day pass. And I think it gets you 5 gigs of data.
Yep.
And then it's $50 for a 30-day pass, and it gets you 15 gigs of data.
Yep.
And
And
that's high-speed data. And then after that, it slows you down to 2G.
quite frankly, you're already on 2G, which you can check your email with. Since
Right. But I'm
you
saying
get,
from the high-speed allotment, that's pretty
yeah.
good.
And actually, I had a cousin that up until recently was living in Spain, and that's actually rather competitive with Spanish prepaid rates for domestic carriers for data. So
If you were to go to Germany, there was somebody in the comment section, I think it was Nintendo 604 or 554, whatever his numbers are. He was saying that he's traveling to Germany. I said, go ahead and get the pass.
if you need it,
His LT is going to be fast.
actually, I think you can call like 611 in Germany and get on it too.
He'll probably have blazing fast speeds. I hear Germany has good connectivity.
Oh yeah.
Follow the Law says, what's the best or a really good option for a dual SIM phone so I can use more data with 2 lines from T-Mobile? OnePlus 7T purchased online. Actually, it's that you could do a dual SIM or you could do a 6T. Or what I would recommend is going on eBay, finding a lightly used or a like new Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus dual SIM. You can get it for about $350. You'll get wireless charging. You'll get IP68. You'll have the dual SIM, expandable storage, good camera, dual aperture lens, fingerprint scanner. I mean, everything. That's a beautiful phone. Quad HD display, good battery life. I mean, that's a great phone for $350, and you're getting dual SIM.
Let's see, Omar, 5G iPhone when you go to Mexico. That depends on how quickly Mexico rolls out the 5G and if your iPhone supports their frequencies.
And Mexico getting 5G, I don't know. When are you putting a date on that?
I've never looked into Mexico.
I don't know anything about Mexico's build out. Who's their telecoms?
I also don't know anything about the eSIM rollouts in the US.
Raphael says, well, this is open to both of us. What are your thoughts on ATSC 3.0?
What is that?
Raphael, we're going to need clarification. Pete stumped. You finally stumped him.
No, I encounter like a million acronyms.
Okay, so ATS 3.0 is standards for television broadcasting. It's 20 standards. There's 1,000 pages of documentation on these standards.
Man, that's more reading than I have to go through for a master's course.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But essentially, it's for broadcasting TV. At the end of 2020, 40 U.S. markets will be deploying ATSC 3.0.
So Stacy says unlock Pixel 3 XL using eSIM plus SIM slot. The eSIM on the Pixel 3 XL only works with Project Fi.
Yeah, so you're restricted to Project Fi for an eSIM. Nobody else supports it at this time.
Timothy Ball, there was a recent push from Google and Samsung, although it has not reached penetration for RCS messaging. Also, there are quite a few apps, so I think it's fixing a void that isn't there.
Jamil says Samsung now looking at 6G. I we're in the infant stages of 5G. How are we going to talk about 6G?
Reason Jarrett Topping, Qualcomm chips get faster speeds because they wrote I think they own some of the patents for cellular network antennas. Also, I think they basically only do that type of thing.
You know what's crazy about what Qualcomm does with their chips? So Qualcomm chips are actually good. The problem is the monopoly that they have within, take for example 5G. It's kind of stifled innovation in 5G. We should have had 5G chips available last year, which means the networks and the spectrum auctions could have been held last year. So if things had worked out properly, if there was more competition within the chip makers, we should have had 5G commercially available this year.
And not only in the select markets.
Raphael says, I'm waiting for 10G, Sneed. Oh, man.
But you know what? I have to get to bed.
Hey, it was good to have you on, Pete. Thanks for stopping by, buddy.
Got a long day tomorrow morning.
Take her easy, man. Rest well.
You too.
Thank you.
Peace.
Later. All right, I'm going to jump back in a little bit for you guys, and then we're going to call it. Hopefully my audio is okay. All right. Last hurrah. Any questions or statements or anything you guys want to get in real quick? That's fine. Cody says, will my iPhone XR have 5G? Nope. Will not have 5G. The first iPhone that will have 5G will probably be next year's model. So whatever, I don't know what that would be, the 11S or something like that. I don't know. Oh, Jamil says that all carriers support eSIM now in the Pixel 3. Okay, that's good. David says, I hear Apple will not support 5G for now. That's probably the case. I don't know. Apple's usually a little bit later to adopt newer technologies. Usually takes them a little bit of time to kind of get the show on the road. I don't know. I could see them having it in maybe 2020. And that's best case scenario with Qualcomm. Raptors won. They won by a score of I think it was 118 to 109 or something like that. Another almost 2-hour stream tonight, Sneed. I know, man. I only wanted to be on here for 30 minutes, but I always end up staying longer. Robert says, any updates on the requirements or lack thereof, spectrum divestiture for merger approval? Nothing yet, but I don't know. We're just kind of waiting. I want to say that we'll have an announcement soon. We were expecting something this week. June 4th kind of came and went, so hopefully something soon. The DOJ is not on a merger clock like the FCC was, so. But I always knew that the FCC was going to okay the merger. Yeah, go ahead and get the like button, guys. Come on now, you guys could do better than that. Yeah, I'm wearing a Cavs shirt, man. Champs, baby. 2016. Got a super chat. Jar Cohen 123. Thank you for the generosity and the consideration. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for the super chat there. Jamil, Eid Mubarak. Had the holiday this week. Hopefully you had a good time enjoying your family and your friends. Back to the normal eating and, some of those long days of fasting, man. Jar Cohen says if the merger falls through, I'm going to scream. I'm going to scream too, man. Most of the updates on the channel revolve around T-Mobile, which means it revolves around the merger. So, a lot of the buzz that's generated on the channel is due to what T-Mobile is doing, and that's been the merger. It's been the hot news. Appreciate it, Mo. Jarrett says, when will the next live stream be? I don't know. I'm going to do the JG Tech Blog podcast this Sunday. So tune into JG Tech Blog. You guys can go ahead and check that out and subscribe. I'll be running that podcast this Sunday. Michael, thank you for liking and subscribing. Much appreciated. If I can get a share, that would be cool. It's all good. Thank you. DC says, I'm really, really hoping that the merger goes through. And a lot of people are. People on T-Mobile are. People on Sprint are hoping for it. I mean, I'm not even a Sprint or a T-Mobile user, but I want it to go through. I just want to see Verizon sweat. I want to see them change a little bit. I want to see them innovate. I want to see them feel the pressure. So, yeah. Charcoan says, we need freaking 5G, goddammit. Certain markets really need it. So the sooner the better. Everybody hit the like button now. You guys don't start hitting the like button, I'm about to bounce. How's that? You guys want to hear a threat? Oh, good question, Raphael. Will Verizon ever change? I think there's certain ways that they'll change. I think there's certain things that they'll be willing to negotiate. Will Verizon ever be like T-Mobile? No way. No way. They just don't have the personalities there, and they don't have the same mission statement that T-Mobile has. So they'll never be like T-Mobile, but hopefully they could be better for customers. Jamil says next year will be the year of 5G. Yeah, it'll be huge. I would say that we'll probably have 50 to 100 markets with 5G by the end of next year. Kind of my prediction, I guess. All right, well, that's pretty much it for the podcast, guys. I'm glad you're able to make it. I hope you enjoyed the show. I want to take a minute to thank Pete for coming on. He didn't have to do that, but it's always an interesting discourse with Pete. I want to thank all my moderators in the live chat. Thank you, Raphael, for your moderation skills. They are second to none. Nocturnal, you're up there as well. Thank you for moderating. So if you guys could, go ahead and thank the mods. Big shout out to Pete for joining us. I want to give a shout out to the patrons over on the Patreon side. Too many to name now, but I appreciate your continued support. I want to thank everybody for the super chats in tonight's live stream. Your generosity and considerations are greatly appreciated. If you're interested in maybe supporting productivity here on the channel, there's a link in the description box below where you guys can send a PayPal donation. So if you want to support your creators directly, that's a great way to do it. You can also join the Patreon side and support there. If you want to get involved with the community, we've got the Sneed Mobile Tech SMT Nation on Discord. Link in the description box as well. Go ahead and get connected to us. The interaction is great. The community is fantastic, fun, supportive, educational, kind, respectful. It's been awesome. I've really enjoyed the Discord chat very much. A lot of good people there. Steve, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Oh, wow. Super chats are coming. Charles, thank you. Thanks so much for the support. Yeah, I enjoy it, man. It's like a labor of love. I've been at it with the channel for almost 2 years. I mean, feels like it was just yesterday when I first started. The channel's grown. The community has grown. There's no negativity. I enjoy what I'm doing here. You guys are great. The live streams are fun. The podcasts are great. Making the videos, I enjoy it. Keeping people up to date, keep myself up to date. It's been a great ride, and honestly, I really I enjoy it so much. And I don't know. I'm at like 3.7 thousand subs now. The videos are very popular. I'm guessing that they're popping up in people's recommends more, getting in the algorithm. I try to upload consistently. I try to keep you guys up to date with everything that's happening. What I really want to do is my mission with the channel is I want people to think of Sneed Mobile Tech when they want to be updated on the wireless and carrier news. I don't want them to go anywhere else if they don't need to. So I try to keep you guys up to date with all 4 carriers. I try to give my unbiased opinions. I try to offer a good, thorough analysis and do so in an engaging manner. I try not to be boring. I try not to be mundane. And I try to do it in different ways, and that's why we do the live stream, and that's why we get interactive, and that's why I chat with you guys in the comment section, and that's why I have the Discord. I want to set myself apart. I mean, for the most part, I don't think anybody's doing as much as I'm doing in terms of the community. So, and I enjoy it very much. You guys are great. You're supportive. Stacy with a super chat. Thank you so much. See, and when you guys say things like "keep it up" and you're doing a great job, it encourages me to continue to roll out the videos and stuff like that. And I enjoy doing it. Thanks, Raphael. Appreciate it, man. EV1 says, "Did you ever work in the industry?" Never worked in the industry. I've only worked in hardware repair, so never worked for a carrier. I mean, I've sold smartphones, but third party, private. I've done the repairs. Tom, thank you for the kind compliment there. Thank you. I appreciate that. K-Do says, "Chat is shared with my main Facebook." Thanks, man. EV1 says, "Where did you get the info?" Info for what? Not sure what you're referring to. If you're saying like, where do I get my info? No, I don't have anybody on the inside. I honestly, what I do is I find announcements, I find news, I put together pieces of the puzzle. And then I try to, I look at things objectively. I try to put myself in the position of a CEO. I try to put myself in the position of a network manager. All I'm trying to do is give you guys the update and then how I see it. Some people disagree with my takes a lot of times. There are a couple of people that are here in the live chat that have had disagreements with me in the comment section, and I'm perfectly fine with it because nobody can be right all the time. And I've never claimed to be right all the time, but I will say that I do follow things very closely so that at least we can have the facts correct. Speculation and analysis can be done after the fact, but my number one goal is to keep people informed, and hopefully you guys are appreciative of that. And whatever we do after the fact, after we get the updates, you discuss the issues. Tom says, "I think T-Mobile is stepping backwards with its new plans." I don't think so. I think the plans are pretty good. They're still ultra competitive. I mean, when you think about the actual performance of the network, there's value in what they're charging. It's not an unfair asking price for what they're giving you. Yeah, I agree, Raphael. It's okay to disagree. I mean, that's the best conversations come out of disagreements. Yeah, K-Deuce, we were talking about like which 5G network is currently performing the best, and me and Pete agreed. Sprint's doing the most right now. They have the most reliable connectivity to 5G. T-Mobile's quiet right now, right? They're kind of waiting for their 5G to kind of, they're waiting on phones essentially to get their 5G going. AT&T doesn't have anything commercially available. It's only for enterprise only. They're using the Netgear and Nighthawk to run their 5G. Every network is limited, but Sprint seems to be doing the most now. Timothy Ball, so you're a store manager for T-Mobile. That's awesome, man. I wonder how sales are doing. It looks like things are pretty good. Nobody adds customers like T-Mobile. 1 million or more customers, 26 quarters in a row or something. It's incredible. You know what's nice about that, Tom? You're on a 2015 plan. You don't have to rush to get off of that plan. T-Mobile does a very good job of grandfathering people, keeping them on their plans if they want to be. You know what, Tom? I remember that plan, the Simple Choice plan. And I know a lot of people still have it. The only problem is if you're going to be moving forward with, what they're going to be offering, they don't encourage you to come out of those older plans, but they'd want you on the Magenta Plus or the Magenta plan. They like to get people on more recent plans and stuff like that, feature sets. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. I do my best, man. I upload consistently, frequently. I do my best to make sure we're up to date on everything. Like I said, I want my channel to be a one-stop shop for everything wireless. We talk devices, we talk networks, performance, updates. I do little specials here and there, where, I take things like, open signal reports and stuff like that. I mean, and actually, I really want to encourage the growth on the Patreon side because I do exclusives on Patreon that the YouTube doesn't get. So guys like Pete and Dave B and Breon and Martin and I know I'm forgetting a couple of people. Jamal, the community there on the Patreon, while it is a small community, that community gets access to some exclusive videos that are of high level production, very unique content that doesn't make its way onto the SMT YouTube channel. I'd really encourage a lot of you to at least go to the SMT on Patreon, look at some of the titles to see if it's something you might be interested in, and to support on the SMT Patreon. You have three options. You can go tier 1, which is $1 a month, tier 2, which is $2 a month, and tier 3, which is $3 a month. And every tier has a different feature set of perks. So you guys can check it out. Go to the SMT Patreon page, and you guys will see all the different tiers, what each tier comes with in terms of a package, and see if it's something you might want to consider. And of course, keep in mind, any considerations and support on Patreon is supporting me. And it helps also support production on the YouTube side. So if you want, consider the Patreon side, consider, a super chat or a donation. All that is perfectly fine. And I'm not saying it's something you have to do. I'm just saying it's appreciated. I'll continue to make the videos, and those that support me with those types of supports are, the driving force of the channel. Raphael says, how do you find the time, Sneed, to do your uploads? So what I do is, I scour all of my sources and I build a script. And once I build the script, I just kind of look over the notes, and then I just I narrate my way through the script. And, I think what I also like to do is I like to show myself in the production of the video so you guys know I'm connected to my channel and there's a face associated with the channel. So, and that's why I also do the live streams. The live streams are easy. We come on here, we have a good community that, wants to have a conversation. I engage you guys. The live streams are easy and I enjoy them very much. They're more low key. The production of the videos can take some more time because it involves research, synthesis, and then production. So a little bit more time consuming. Okay, Deuce, thank you for the compliment. Much appreciated. Frankie says, totally awesome show, and sparring is fun as long as we don't take it personally. Frankie, I don't take stuff personally. It's easier to not take stuff personally when it's strictly a question of content. But when somebody says to me, liar, or if somebody says to me, you don't know what you're talking about, all I do is report news. If you question my opinion, I'm okay with that. But if you're questioning the news, then that means you're questioning the sources. I'll find 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 different sources on the same topic just to confirm. So when people start questioning whether or not what I'm saying is true or false, I try my best to find the most accurate information. If my analysis is a disagreement with you, fine. But the news I report, I try to make it completely true and factual. Tom, we already talked about who's winning 5G, man. It's Sprint. Sprint's winning 5G right now. I know it sounds crazy, but Sprint's winning. But I would say that they're probably not going to win 5G in the grand scheme of things unless they get on a merger, like with T-Mobile, for example. Thanks, Raphael. I'm glad you're enjoying the channel, man. That's why I made you the mod. Yeah, Tom, go ahead and, when this is done, it'll upload DVR. You can rewatch it and stuff like that, and you can see all of that. Charles says Magenta Friday is a day in 2016 where they gave free lines out. Wish they would do that again. They haven't done that in a while. 2016, that would have been 3 years ago. Yeah, but T-Mobile's always pulled out all the stops. They always do stuff like that. So I think I'll leave it at that. I spent a lot longer than I anticipated. My goal was to be on for 30 minutes. Then we ended up being on here for about 2 hours again. So I want to go ahead and take this opportunity to thank everybody for stopping by, watching, listening, however you access this. I want to thank Pete for stopping by. I want to thank all the supporters here on SMT, all the viewers, all the subscribers, those that provided a donation or a super chat. Thank you guys so much. Go ahead and check out the links in the description box below for all things Sneed Mobile Tech. And I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next live stream and on the next update. Peace.